Can I have everyone? It's just me. It's just me. If you would like to sit down, welcome to so your throne standing. That's good. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for coming. And I want to thank each and every candidate that's running, because you know what? I've been in politics a long time, but the atmosphere of politics right now is shameful. It's shameful. So when I see the candidates that are willing to step up and get out there and get in the muck and do the fighting for us, I appreciate it. I truly do. One of the things that I like for you to know that what we're doing as a caucus, we're diligently seeking and ready to train anyone that wants to run for office in the next 2 years. We have some people that have ran and they weren't fortunate enough to win, but they're stayed in the mix. They still have the desire, and we're willing to work with them. So we as a party, we've got to get back to what affects everyone, not just what affects the lower income, not just what affects those that live in the outer parts of the cities. We've got to get back to items that affect everyone. We got to talk about how they're going to feed their children. We got to talk about how they're going to be able to take care of grandma or grandpa when they get older. We've got to talk about even how these people mentally are able to handle all of the BS that is being put on them right now. And I hope that everybody in this room is on the same accord that I am on, because it's not about me. It's not about those elected in Washington. It's about my community. And when my community suffers, I'm suffering, even if financially I'm not, because I cannot sit back and watch my elderly neighbor trying to decide how she's going to take medicine or feed herself, knowing that I'm blessed because I had a union job that I retired from, and I was able to get full pension. Please think about the issues that affect everyone and not just a certain group of people.
So good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. 92 degrees today. You are here with us, and we love it. This is a very important day, right? My name is Olin Gerard. I'm the vice chair of the Official Democratic Black Caucus. I don't like standing behind there. I feel like I'm separated. But I'm glad you're here. We have a lot of good stuff going on here. We have folks who are running for offices, but the most important part of that is that we have people who are interested in folks who are running for office, right? You get a chance to hear from them personally, all right? And not only that, their story should be our story. And if it's not our story, we got to go another way. It doesn't mean we don't like you. You just have to go another way. The most important thing why we're here is because we share views, values, and vision.
So I'm going to ask, this is the first time I've ever had this. We have great candidates that are running for office. Is there anyone that would like to speak first? The gentleman that was so gracious enough to allow us to utilize this facility.
My name is Carl Hayer. I'm the Recreation Director for the City of Mount Clemens. You are in the Caucus Community Center, a building that came about because a group of community members came together and formed a plan and went after money from our local state officials. We were able to get that money and have this building raised. Thank you for coming here. Part of what my job is to do exactly what Madam President said and bring everybody in our community together. So we have offerings from everybody from our youngest members to senior citizens from all different demographics. Typically, what my biggest job is trying to convince everybody that this community center belongs to everybody and everybody should come over here, because some people have different viewpoints about this neighborhood or our other two buildings or in other neighborhoods, or whether or not they should or shouldn't be there. And this is all of our city, just like this is all of our state, all of our country, and we should utilize that. So that's the biggest part of my job, is getting everybody to buy into a vision of, I belong there, this is a part of it. But I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and if you are in a position, we could always use funding. If you are getting to a position, we could always use funding. So always think of the Caucus Community Center in the City of Mount Clemens. Welcome. Thank you very much.
My name is Josh Michaud. I'm running for governor of Michigan in the 2026 election cycle. I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan Dearborn, where I earned a political science degree with a minor in law and society and a concentration in public policy. I graduated with high distinction. Over the years, I've worked in various industries, including computer science and IT. I worked for various organizations, conducting research studies based on various factors such as sociology, psychology, anthropology, economics, information technology, and correlated project topics. Additionally, I have worked on several media correlated projects that involve writing for media and including audio and sound design on various media formats. So basically, I'm going to go over my campaign policy and project stances. These are listed on my website, joshuamichaud.org. First of all, infrastructure. I believe that infrastructure in Michigan is an important issue that needs attention. That is why I advocate for government funding to repair infrastructure, including aging city water pipe infrastructure, roads, and various infrastructure all over Michigan. I plan to organize federal and state incentives to develop derelict parts of the cities all over Michigan, and especially Detroit. The legalization of the marijuana industry in Michigan has played a vital role in the production of funds, which allowed for the repair of the damming roads. My plan is to keep the industry legal and active. Thus, we can continue to make repairs to infrastructure and implement funding into other areas of improvement. Next is the economy and the middle class. I believe that we should continue to develop and improve the Michigan economy. Expanding and developing more opportunities for everyone would result in less unemployment. The minimum wage should be raised so that people do not have to work multiple jobs to make a living wage, and they have more time to spend with their family members to develop their family and relationship roles. Affordable health care and medications. Everyone should have a right to affordable health care and medications in America. Nobody should go without vital health care and medications that they need in order to remain healthy and maintain good health and well-being. That is why an improved affordable health care system should be developed starting in Michigan. The issue of climate change. Climate change is becoming a major issue that many choose to ignore. We should develop incentives for the use of cleaner and energy efficient infrastructure. That includes solar energy, fuel efficient vehicles, such as hybrid vehicles and possibly electric vehicles. The Second Amendment and gun control. Additionally, I acknowledge that citizens have the right, have their Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. That should not include criminals and the mentally ill. We all should acknowledge that we need to implement some form of gun control to keep various weapons out of the hands of criminals and the mentally ill. This would maintain the safety of public schools, our public schools and our children. And lastly, incentives to bring Hollywood movie productions back to Michigan. I will work with the government and other organizations to develop incentives to bring Hollywood productions back to Michigan. Incentives will ask production companies to make use of Michigan arts and all Michigan art forms such as visual arts, music, media, actors, skilled trades, locations, historical buildings, and various locations throughout Michigan, etc. I am only able to make this happen if I'm elected into office. I will work to implement my correlated connections to the Hollywood film industry in order to convince them to implement Michigan locations, resources, and industries to bring the film industry back to Michigan. I want to thank all of you for inviting me to, I want to thank all of you for listening to me speak, and I want to thank all of you for inviting me here. It has been nice talking to you all. Are there any questions?
Could you spell your last name here?
My last name is spelled M-I-S-H-O.
M-I-S-H-O?
M-I-S-H-O.
My name is Joe Tate. I'm a Michigan State representative, and I'm running for U.S. Senate. So I right now cover House District 9, which is downtown and the lower east side of Detroit. And before I jump into my remarks, I just want to give a shout out. I know she's not here, but Representative Denise Menser as well too. Just want to say how much of a great legislator she is. And everyone in this room that knows Denise knows that she has some pretty colorful language. But the work that she's able to do in Lansing is not only something that impacts her constituents here, but also across the state of Michigan. So where I wanted to start is, I'm running for U.S. Senate because I want to protect the foundations that Michiganders have built for themselves and for their families. So there's a house on the east side of Detroit, 1554 Pennsylvania Avenue, that has a lot of meaning to me. It's a house that my grandpa and Grandma Tate spent over 40 years building out their family, and it's still there. And I can remember as a kid seeing pictures of the neighborhood where you had these kids coming out, you had people just spending time together, you saw that community there. And I say this because my story is a common Michigan story. My grandparents came up from the South during the Great Migration because they didn't have a fair shot at opportunity in Alabama at the time. My grandpa Joe was a bricklayer, and he built countless foundations across the city of Detroit while setting his kids up for success and to have a better life than he had. This transferred over to my father, who was a Detroit firefighter, who died in the line of duty protecting a community in the city that he loved. It also transferred over to my mother, who was a public school teacher on the east side of Detroit as well, too, who understood how important it was to have a sound education to get ahead in life. And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be standing here before you right now. If it weren't for them creating opportunities for me, I wouldn't have earned a scholarship to play football at Michigan State University. Go Green.
Uh-oh.
Just saying it for
Go Blue.
Always was.
And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to serve my country on the battlefield in Afghanistan as an officer in the Marine Corps. And also, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to become the first black speaker of the Michigan State House, where I was at the table working on legislation to reduce gun violence here in the state, to repeal right to work, to ensure everybody is treated equally before the eyes of government by expanding the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. Let me go back to the house on Pennsylvania. If you go down there now, and I pass by it every a few times a week, my grandparents' house is the only house on the block now. And we know that Trump is a primary threat. I got it. Like, it's important. We're seeing what is going on. I feel like the U.S. Senator's job is, one, to make sure that people don't fall through the cracks, and then make sure that people also have the opportunity to live a better life than their parents. But a lot of this, too, has been generational. How are we going to change the game to ensure not only that those that have been fortunate continue to be able to do what they want to do to get ahead while playing in the rules, but also how are we going to make sure that we can go to less ceasefire events, that we don't have to have
continue to have conversations about a pause in Job Corps, that we don't need to ensure that nobody will have, people will have problems or access to health care. But also getting ahead in life, having a better life than their kids. That's why I'm running. I'm looking forward to having this conversation. As you said, Madam President, you put it straight, is that it's not about us, right? We have elections, 3 in Macomb County. We had some special elections too, so about 4 times last year. But the names on the ballot are important. Candidates are important. But it's about you all. It really is. And I want to have those one-on-one conversations as we go along, and I intend to do that. So thank you all so much for having me.
All right, good afternoon, Democrats.
Good afternoon.
I also just want to say a big thank you to Ms. Jackie, Mr. Olu. Thank you so much for having us here in your space. I remember being in this community, living in this community, and I got to tell you, upholding the values of diversity when people want to put them down in places that people sometimes want to put them down. It takes extra work and extra effort, so I just deeply appreciate y'all doing that work. So one more round of applause for you all. Thank you so much. So, on the point of diversity, my name is Abdul El Sayed, and I'm running for Senate because I think my name would be perfect on a ballot. At least that's what they'll tell me, right? Yeah. Let me tell you, as a guy named Abdul, I was never supposed to run for office. I wanted to be a doctor. Let me tell you a little bit about why. As a child of immigrants, raised by my father, who is an immigrant from Egypt, and my stepmom, Jackie, born and raised in the middle of the state of Michigan in Gratiot County, I spent most of my summers between 2 places. With my grandparents, aunts and uncles, and cousins in Alexandria, Egypt, or with my grandparents, aunts and uncles, and cousins at a cottage on a lake in Montcalm County, Michigan. And I'll tell you this, your grandmother's love, whether she never got to go to school and raised 6 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment in Egypt, or she was an educated nurse in Flint, Michigan, in the middle of the state of Michigan, that love is the same. I wish people understood that. Because I think we'd all be better off. And I got the love of both of them. But let me tell you about my grandmother, because she lost 2 of the 8 babies she gave birth to. 2 of them. She had this incredible way of telling a story. I remember watching Aladdin for the first time and being like, man, it was better when my grandmother told me it. But she also had this brutal way of cutting you down the side. So I'd walk into her apartment, right, over the summers, I had my cat backwards and my kind of American swagger, and she'd pull me down the side. She'd sit me down, she said, Habibi, look at that cousin over there. I'd look, she said, that one is smarter than you. Point to the next one, I don't have to tell you, is taller and better looking. 3rd one, nicer, kinder hearted. 4th one, definitely nicer than you. 5th one, more athletic, and it kept going like this. At some point, I'm like a puddle on the floor, and I asked Tita, like, what do I have going for me? She said, I'm telling you the best thing of all. You get to leave at the end of the summer. And she was teaching me about opportunity. See, in the 15 hours I would travel to and from Egypt, I traveled 10 years difference in life expectancy. I didn't grow up too far away from here in Oakland County, and in 15 minutes going into any neighborhood in the city of Detroit, I could travel the same 10-year life expectancy gap. And the crazy thing about that is I know what America gave me. I understand what my life might have been had I not been born and raised here. But the same privileges, vaccines against diseases that killed an aunt and uncle I never got to meet, amazing public schools, a public university I got to go to, medical education funded by a public agency, the same opportunities I had were denied to children 15 minutes away from me whose family has been here way longer than I have. And it's the same story if you go 5 hours north into any rural part of the state. And that fact is why I want to become a doctor. Now, you train to ask 2 questions. What's wrong and how can I help? And too often the answer to what was wrong had less to do with the physiology you spend your time learning in med school and a lot more to do with pathologies in our politics. Do you get to breathe clean air? Do you get to drink clean water? Can you walk in your community without being victimized by a neighbor or the state itself? Can you come to see a doctor in the first place without falling into medical debt? These are the things that pattern health and disease. So I followed those back out of the clinic into public health. I got the opportunity at 30 years old to rebuild Detroit's health department. We did things like put glasses on kids' faces when we found that 30% of our kids would test positive for vision deficits, then come back testing positive again next year. So we literally put optometrists on vans at their schools. That program that we brought to the state of Michigan has put 50,000 pairs of glasses on kids' faces. to some of the biggest corporate polluters in the state. When Marathon Petroleum, y'all know Marathon Petroleum, the ghost city that you have to go when you're going south to Ohio, not that anybody would go to Ohio. But if you do, right, you gotta pass that place. They are the biggest polluter and the most polluted zip code in the entire state of Michigan. And when they wanted to raise their emissions yet again, we stood up. We forced them to invest $10 million of their own money to reduce their emissions when they wanted to increase them. After Flint, we had every school, daycare, and Head Start tested for lead in the water. The first 68 schools that we tested, 19 of them tested positive for lead. Went on to rewrite the lead ordinances for the state to protect folks like kids in Flint or in Detroit. Most recently, I've been serving in Wayne County, the state's largest municipal health department. We've done things like eliminate medical debt for 300,000 people, $700 million in medical debt we are in the process of erasing. Put life-saving naloxone to take on the opioid crisis in 100 different locations across the county. Built an air quality monitoring unit that is second to none. It is state-of-the-art. You can get real-time information about air quality and download the data to hold the biggest polluters in the state accountable. Now look, I love that job. That's the kind of job my tita would have been proud of. And I'm sitting there on the same day when the Trump administration froze federal funds. You all remember that? I'm looking at all of our line items, our WIC budget, frozen. Literally, food on the table for moms and babies. FQHC budget, frozen. The last line of defense for healthcare. Vaccines, frozen. And on the same day, I get a push notification on my phone that after a long and storied career, our U.S. Senator has decided to retire and there'll be an open seat. Now, y'all might remember I ran for governor back in 2018, all right? And at the time, I want you to put yourself back in that position. After 8 years of Obama, it felt like the record skipped, right? That there was some cosmic mistake that elected Donald Trump in office. And at the time, I said something that people weren't quite ready to hear, which is that Donald Trump is not himself the disease of our politics, okay? Donald Trump is just the worst symptom of the disease of our politics. So you gotta ask yourself then, what is the disease of our politics? Well, it's the way in which huge corporations, billionaires, would-be oligarchs can buy and sell access to politicians so that they don't get regulated against in any real way. And that leads us to industries that dominated our lives. Whether it's a health insurance industry for which we pay way too much in premiums, just to actually have to pay more in case you get sick in the form of a deductible. By the way, these are words that mean nothing to anybody because they do it on purpose.
Yep.
Right? All of us here are hostages to DTE. Biggest spender in Michigan politics. They raise our rates, and every single time the wind blows, right, we lose our electricity. And why? Well, because they're supposed to be a regulated monopoly. But you know how you get out of regulation? You buy off the people who are supposed to regulate it in the form of corporate PAC checks. When I ran in 2018, they spent $200,000 to beat me. I kind of wonder how much of my own rates they paid against me. I want you to think about this contraption on your pocket, all right? I got 2 little girls. I love them deeply. I don't get to see as much of them as I wish I did. And sometimes when I'm hanging out with them, I feel my right hand reaching into my right pocket. And I'm just like, no. These are the people you're supposed to connect with. Now, I'm not going to out anybody here, but I also know I'm not the only one. And all of this because our system has failed to regulate the huge corporations that dominate most of the aspects of our lives. We pay more for the things that we have to buy from them, and we get paid less for the work that we have to do for them. And I'm the only candidate in this race who's never taken a dime of corporate money for a reason. It's not a choice to me. It is about a fundamental thesis about what's wrong with our politics. So I'm running for U.S. Senate in large part because it just shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this hard to take a big deep breath of air. It shouldn't be this hard to drink water. It should not be this hard to walk in your community and feel safe. It should not be this hard to work the job tomorrow that you worked yesterday and know that you can bring enough home to afford your home. It shouldn't be this hard to stay in your home if you're over 65 or even believe you could have a home if you're over 40. And it shouldn't be this hard to see a doctor. So look, I know people like me are not supposed to run for office. I get it. My name is really weird. I get that. But it's not about me. It's about the movement that we can build together. It's about folks in communities like this coming together around the politics of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's about the opportunity we have to actually take on the system. I am not a career politician. I never want to be. I hope that I can always say I was a career doctor who engaged in civic surgery. And I hope that you'll join me in that work, because this work, this moment, right now, We don't have time. It shouldn't be this hard. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Madam Chair, board members, thank you so much for having us. And thank you for everybody who has been so lovely to my daughter Noah, who's now out in the hallway. She decided today was to come with mommy to work day, and then she was disappointed to learn that we're not going to the Capitol on Saturdays. So thank you so much for just being so
We're
lovely.
sorry.
There's nothing to be sorry about. She's 4.
She's 4.
She loves meeting
I
new
love
people.
it.
She invited everybody from an event last weekend to our house, so just know she's going to invite you all to our house.
All right.
Wow. Everything can collaborate.
Biggest party she'll ever have.
Truly, she loves it. I'm Mallory McMorrow, and I am so proud to be here, so thrilled to be here, so grateful for you for sharing some time. I am currently the first Democratic Senate Majority Whip in Lansing since 1984. And that is intentional. I want to talk a little bit about how I got there and then why I'm running. I am somebody who did not ever see myself in politics. I have lived all over the country. I was born and raised in rural New Jersey. I pig sat for my neighbors. My best friend's mom used to race a demolition derby. It was a very different lifestyle than we have now. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame with a degree in industrial design in 2008, where I wanted to be a car designer. Talk about just about the worst time in American history to want to become a car designer. So I was on track to do well. I built a concept car live on stage at the LA Auto Show that was mine, and then I found out that the Chrysler Pacifica concept studio had closed. That everybody showed up, that their stuff was in boxes, and I realized pretty quickly, oh, I am not about to get a job. So I graduated, and I slept in the back of my car. I had tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. I had no health insurance. The Affordable Care Act didn't exist yet, and I applied to over 300 jobs. Now, I will tell you that I also have ADHD, so the fact that I did not have health insurance and I couldn't treat that made it significantly harder to apply for those jobs. I was folding clothes at Urban Outfitters for minimum wage. And I share that because when I talk to people, I talk to so many people who say a version of the same story, which is I have done everything right and I'm still getting screwed. I can't afford to buy a house. I'm still in debt. I would love to afford to start a family. I can't do that. I talked to a woman in my neighborhood when I had Noah. I was walking around the neighborhood who told me she applied to 26 different child care centers, all of whom had a non-refundable deposit, so she was out hundreds of dollars, and she just gave up, and she left the workforce. So there was a day after the 2016 election where there was a video that went viral, and in that video, middle school students were chanting, "Build that wall," at a 5th grader, slamming on the tables in a lunchroom, screaming at this girl. And that was Royal Oak Middle School, which had been my polling place the day before. The fact that it was kids that had learned that this was okay, terrified me. So I did what any normal person does, and I Googled how to run for office. I've never done this before. I found an organization called Emerge America, which recruits and trains Democratic women to run for office. I sent in an application thinking that they would take one look at it, realize I had no political experience, and reject me. But the funny thing about raising your hand is you tend to be called on. So I spent 6 months getting coffee every day at Starbucks in Madison Heights, where I met Michael, learning how to run for office, learning how to put together a campaign plan, learning how to build a team and to ask for money, which is the most vulnerable thing you will ever do. I called a guy I went to college with who I hadn't seen since we were at a Frisbee kegger to ask for $50, and he refused to give it to me, and I crawled under the table and wanted to die. But I decided to challenge Marty Nullenberg, who was my Republican incumbent state senator. And I was told by local Democratic Party leadership, that's cute, you're gonna get destroyed, but don't worry, you can build your name recognition, you can run for something smaller next time. You see, Marty Nullenberg had won by 16 points in 2014. So people viewed me as the sacrificial lamb. But there was something really beautiful about not necessarily having party support, is we could run the campaign we wanted to run. So we brought together retired teachers and kids and grandmas and aunts and uncles, and over the course of a year and a half, we brought more than 500 volunteers together, many of people who had never been involved in politics before. And on election night, we beat them by 4. That is a 20-point swing in a single cycle. And we beat him. And I came into the Senate thinking, wow, I've got this title now. We're going to be able to get all the good work done that I ran on. Well, joke's on me. Because again, the Senate had been controlled by Republicans since 1984. So I introduced dozens of bills on every single issue that I ran on. And the Republican majority had decided on day one that no bill with my name on it would ever pass, because they wanted to take my district back. And then I woke up one morning in 2022 to the news that a colleague had sent out an email accusing me by name of wanting to groom and sexualize kindergartners and wanting 8-year-olds to believe they were responsible for slavery. That is a horrible day at work. And I was ready to quit. I had decided, maybe I've let everybody down, maybe I'm not cut out for this job, maybe this just isn't for me. So I decided if I'm going to go down, I might as well go down swinging. So I gave a speech from the floor of the state senate in which I declared myself a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that hate will only win when people like me let it happen. To talk to people who look like me. This was in the middle of the rise of Moms for Liberty, taking over school boards, really pushing for book bans, challenging DEI. And I put that speech online thinking that's it. And then Hillary Clinton retweeted that speech to 30 million people. And by the end of the night, tens of millions of people had seen it. And I was on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News where they called me liberal Karen with a headband. So we knew we had something. And I set out, I opened a PAC. And over the next year, we brought on a fundraiser. I was in a dozen states. I was constantly on the news, which was intentional. We brought in a media advisor to make sure that we could turn the spotlight on Michigan and tell the rest of the country that we had an opportunity to help flip control of the Senate for the first time in my lifetime. We raised millions of dollars, and we did just that. I supported a dozen other state Senate candidates, not only financially, but knocking doors all around the state to help flip control of that chamber. And then we got to work. I feel like people are frustrated with Democrats saying they're going to do something and not doing it. I've had a lot of people ask me, why didn't Democrats on the federal level codify Roe when they had all the power to do so? Why are you going to run on something and then not do it? So when we got into power, we governed like we give a damn. We repealed the seniors' retirement tax. We expanded the earned income tax credit. We are on track to build 10,000 new affordable and missing middle housing units. We passed sensible gun violence prevention legislation, including my bill, which created Michigan's red flag law. I lost somebody in the Virginia Tech shooting, a friend of mine, so this is deeply personal to me. And I look at this, and if anybody tells you we can't do big things, they're lying to you. Now, I'm running for U.S. Senate because I look at what is happening in Washington right now, and I don't see that same fight too often. I see too many people treating this like it's business as usual. This is not my father's Republican Party. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party that he has taken over and remade his image. And if you are not willing to fall in line, you are going to be out. So that requires fighters. It is not enough to send a strongly worded letter. It is not enough to hold press conferences and say things like, well, their polling numbers are going to come down and we'll get them in the midterms. Because people are scared and they're angry and they're frustrated. And I see it when I'm out at protests. I see it in Indivisibles. I see it at Democratic clubs. I see it in rooms like this where people want to know, what can we do now? So I'm running because I want to bring the same fight that we brought to Lansing to Washington, to rebuild power and to do what we say we are going to do so that people believe that the American dream is possible again, so that they can afford to buy a house, so that they can afford a family, so that they can afford childcare. I would be one of the only moms of a young child in the Senate. And it's not a mistake that we see the policies that come down because people bring their own lived experiences into this job. So the fact that we don't have universal child care, the fact that we don't have paid leave, the fact that we don't have great schools available and accessible for everybody regardless of your income is because of the people who are in power. I hope to have the opportunity to change that and fight for you. We've done a lot of work in Michigan, and I think Washington needs to learn a thing or two about how we did it here.
Fighters like all of you, we have to, Mr. Michael Howard, run a campaign to the likes that this state hasn't seen. It is a new moment. We have to dig deep into our neighborhoods. We have to get in places where folks haven't seen us. This is why I have a little program called Manufacturing Monday. I don't bring cameras, mic up, I don't do any of that. I meet real working people where they are. I hear about the wages, I hear about the job, I see what they're making, which is actually pretty incredible, all the innovation booming out of this state. Send me to Senate to brag about who we are. It's not just that the Tigers are doing well. It's that we got people who are made of something. And so that is what I have done my entire life. If it's the auto rescue, when at the end they're saying who's gonna shut out the lights in Detroit, if it's standing up time and time and time again, getting something like the Chips and Science Act done, if it's introducing legislation to support black businesses who are 9 out of 10 times more likely to shut down during the COVID-19. I want to get to the Senate to pass the bill. I want to get to the Senate because, yes, I'm an original co-sponsor over and over again of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Our personal freedoms and our democracy is under attack, my friends. And this is a Michigan moment. And it is through our resilience, our made in Michigan attitude, how we will move forward and how we will send the voice we deserve come next November. Again, my name's Haley Stevens.
Hey, I'm Alex Hawkins. I'm running for John James congressional seat here in Michigan's 10th district. I grew up with a single mom after I lost my dad when I was 8. I grew up in a union household. I enlisted in the U.S. Army after high school. I became a bomb tech. I've spent the last 10 years of my life serving on active duty and in the Michigan Army National Guard as an explosive ordnance disposal technician. I'm a volunteer sheriff's deputy. Both my parents grew up here in Macomb County in East Point. My aunt lives here in Mount Clemens. My other aunt lives in Warren. I grew up my whole life coming to this area and being a part of this. My wife and I live in Rochester, which is in the district. And I'm just a regular guy that got tired of seeing politicians standing up and not standing up and doing the right thing. So I decided to step up. I've always been the person to put myself between the people and the problem. The U.S. government has spent a lot of money training me to see some of the most complex and difficult issues on earth and to be able to go and approach that and try and solve it. So I'm here to represent the people of the Michigan's 10th district, and thank you so much.